In this video, we'll show you how to flush the brake fluid on your Mazda CX-5. A simple job you can do at home with just a few basic tools. First, let's go over what you'll need. A hydraulic jack and jack stands, a 21mm socket, a torque wrench and a breaker bar, a 10mm wrench, a brake bleeder bottle and a small plastic syringe, and about 1 liter or 32 ounces of fresh .3 or .4 brake fluid and some brake cleaner. Start by opening the hood and locating the brake fluid reservoir. Clean the area around the cap to make sure no dirt gets inside the reservoir later on. Remove the reservoir cap and carefully take out the filter screen. This can be a bit fiddly. Take your time and gently pry it loose. Once removed, clean the filter screen with some brake cleaner and a clean rag. Next, grab a syringe or something similar and pull out as much of the old brake fluid from the reservoir as you can. This helps reduce how much of that old fluid needs to travel through the brake lines later. Don't empty it completely though. Leave a bit of fluid in there so you don't pull air into the master cylinder. You'll notice the baffles inside the reservoir will stop you from getting every last bit out. Now fill the reservoir with fresh .3 or .4 fluid and reinstall the cap. It's okay to fill slightly above the max mark. We'll be drawing fluid out through the calipers later. Be careful not to spill brake fluid on any painted surfaces or components, as it's corrosive and will damage paint. If you do spill some, wipe it off immediately. Go ahead and pop the filter screen back in and screw the cap back on. To access the bleeder valves on the brake calipers, we'll remove the wheels for easier access. Before lifting the car, loosen the lug nuts slightly while it's still on the ground. Don't remove them yet. Now, raise the front of the car by placing your hydraulic jack under the front subframe. Once the wheels are off the ground, position your jack stands at the designated lift points on both sides. Next, raise the rear. If your CX-5 is all-wheel drive, place the jack under the rear differential. It has a built-in lifting point. For front-wheel drive models, you can lift from the rear crossmember near the exhaust pipe. Once the rear wheels are off the ground, place the jack stands on both sides of the proper lift points. If you don't have 4 jack stands, you can do one wheel or one side at a time. Now remove the lug nuts and take off the wheels to expose the brake caliper and the bleeder screw. We'll be using the 2-person bleeding method. While there are 1-person methods using a bleeder bottle with a one-way valve, those can sometimes let air sneak back in through the bleeder threads when you release the pedal. A pressure bleeder is another option, but the 2-person method works perfectly fine and doesn't require any special tools. Just a helper for a few minutes. Always start bleeding the brakes from the wheel farthest from the master cylinder, then work your way closer. The order is rear right, rear left, front right, and finally front left. Pull off the small rubber dust cap from the bleeder valve and place your 10mm wrench over the valve. Use the boxed end of the wrench to avoid rounding of the bleeder. Attach the hose from your bleeder bottle to the bleeder valve. You can also make your own setup with a clear plastic hose and an empty bottle with a hole in the cap. Before opening the bleeder, have your helper press and hold the brake pedal. Open the bleeder valve and allow the old fluid to flow out into your bottle. When the flow slows down, close the valve and signal your helper to release the pedal. Repeat this process until you see clean, clear fluid coming through the line. Brake fluid is hygroscopic, which means it absorbs moisture from the air. When it gets hot, that water can turn into vapor inside the brake lines, and making your brakes feel spongy or soft while braking hard repeatedly. Check the brake fluid reservoir under the hood every 10 pedal pumps or so and top it off with new fluid as needed. Never let the reservoir run empty. That could let air enter the master cylinder, and that's a real pain to remove later. Continue bleeding the brakes until you see clean, fresh brake fluid flowing from the caliper. Once you're done, remove the bleeder bottle and clean up any spilled fluid with some brake cleaner. Be sure to wipe off the brake disc if any grease or fluid got on it. Finally, reinstall the rubber bleeder cap. Repeat the same procedure for the remaining wheels. working your way toward the one closest to the master cylinder. After all 4 brakes are flushed, put the wheels back on and hand tighten the lug nuts for now. We'll torque them properly once the car is back on the ground. Carefully lift the car again, remove the jack stands, and lower it back to the ground. Now torque the lug nuts to 108 foot-pounds or 146 newton-meters, tightening them in a crisscross pattern to ensure even pressure. Now top up the brake fluid reservoir so the level sits between the minimum and max marks. If it's hard to see, shine a flashlight against the back of the reservoir to check the level more easily. Once it's filled, close the cap and wipe away any spilled brake fluid. And that's it. You've successfully flushed the brake fluid on your Mazda CX-5. If this video helped you out, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more simple, step-by-step maintenance guides. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below. Thanks for watching.